Okay, hi everybody, it's Michael Wright here. I'm the Canine Behaviourist. I've been off Twitch for quite a while now while I've been waiting to get a proper, decent broadband connection, which I now have. So I'm going to be popping up here fairly frequently to talk about all things dog. Now today I want to talk about lockdown. I'm sorry if that sounds a bit boring and a bit tedious, and you can't turn the news on these days without being told something about lockdown and how everybody's struggling, etc., etc. And I think it can get a little bit much. However, I'm interested from a dog's perspective, obviously, because that's what I do. I'm particularly interested in lockdown. I wrote about it a few months ago in my blog or on my website, and I was interested a few weeks ago to actually see some research that the Dogs Trust had done looking into the behaviour of our dogs during lockdown and the effect of lockdown upon our dogs. So I wrote a little piece here on my blog about that particularly. In the chat window, hopefully you should be able to see that link to that page. If not, just visit my website and have a look at it in the blog, and you'll see it. I've also put a link to the Dogs Trust research about these dogs. In fact, they looked at dogs in Spain. And they did it, as a lot of this research is done, by putting a fairly in-depth questionnaire, and it looked at the first lockdown back in last year, March to May time, and it considered the impact upon humans really with lockdown, but it also, more importantly for me, looked quite carefully at the impact upon our dogs. Now, I've written about this in my blog piece before Christmas, and I've made some of these comments, but it's interesting to see some actual research that supports some of the things I was talking about. So I just thought I'd touch upon it a little bit more, because I am seeing a lot of people when I'm out walking with Ziggy, my dog, and they're displaying quite a bit of the various behaviours and practices that were outlined in this piece of research. So, pardon me for glancing down. I'm just checking to see if there's anybody listening. If not, I'll post this later on social media and Facebook and YouTube. So, hopefully people will read it. So for those people, welcome. But the idea of these little missives from me is hopefully to get some questions from people about their dog behaviour, and maybe answer some of those live as we're doing these. So the things that I mentioned and the Dogs Trust mentioned, things that relate to our dogs. Now, during lockdown, many people with their dogs have either not been taking them out at all. Those that have been taking them out are often making sure that they keep well away from other dogs. They're actively looking for places where there's no other dogs. Many people are keeping their dogs on leads, be they an extendable lead, which anybody who's listened to my witterings will know I hate with a vengeance, or just short lead walking. And again, the object is to keep them away from other dogs. A lot of people are worried about touching dogs and touching other people's dogs. Now, to date, although it might change, of course, there's no scientific evidence and there's no real data that says we can contract the coronavirus from our dogs. However, of course, we should be taking fairly simple precautions and applying some very common sense. So, for instance, whenever I meet dogs, and have done for years, I'll stroke them and have a chat with them and have a little play with them maybe. and have some nice interaction with them. But I always, after I've done that, when I get home, I thoroughly wash my hands. Now, here, in the current situation, I'd probably just emphasize that a bit more. So I actually don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't be touching dogs and interacting with them, maybe giving them a treat, that sort of thing. But some of the things we shouldn't do is allow dogs to lick our faces, for instance. If we do touch the dogs, we have to resist the temptation then to touch our own faces after we've touched the dogs. But as I say, common sense dictates all of that. But so when you get home and you have had interaction with other dogs, you just make sure you thoroughly clean the hands, as the government asks us to, thoroughly wash our hands. And of course, when we're out walking our dogs, we'll keep our distance from the owners, at least 2 meters. But there's no reason why we shouldn't allow our dogs to interact, or indeed interact with the dog if they want to interact with us. We don't force ourselves upon dogs, but this is all important stuff. So the question is, why is it important? Well, like humans, a lot of the human beings have been suffering with stress-related problems, mental health problems, all those sorts of things. Now, dogs aren't necessarily dissimilar. I'm not saying they particularly suffer with mental health problems. I think we shouldn't anthropomorphize them, but they do suffer stress. There's no doubt about that. And dogs are creatures of routine. If we then start to do something entirely different or prevent them from undertaking their normal behaviours, you will end up with problems with your dogs. So let's talk about going out and about first of all, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about actually being at home with these dogs for extended periods. So when we're out and about with them, first point, if we keep our dogs on the lead and keep them away from other dogs, we're doing a number of things here. Quite a lot of these dogs, certainly in the research would support it, you're denying quite often the chance for the dogs to stop and sniff and interact and enjoy their environment. That's very important to a dog. Scent is one of and smell is one of the main methods of communication for a dog. So to deny them the ability to stop and have a good old sniff at something is to do them a disservice, and they won't be happy. Now, of course, walking them on the lead is bad enough, but I still, and this is another pet hate of mine, I still see too many people combining their activities together. So I like to go for a run. I don't. I like to go for a run. Okay, so I've got a dog. Oh, I know what I can do. I can go for my whatever, how long I run, and I'll take my dog with me. Well, that sounds okay, doesn't it? But what that actually means is I strap my dog to me on a relatively short lead, and I then go running and getting my miles in, and the dog runs along with me. We don't stop. The dog runs along with me. So I get my exercise and it's really good because the dog's getting his exercise as well. Well, yeah, the dog is getting exercise. You can't argue with that. But what the dog isn't getting is a dog's experience of life and its environment as it should be. So these dogs aren't being allowed to stop and sniff and just enjoy their surroundings. They quite often aren't getting any time off lead whatsoever, so they get strapped to a human, they get run around, they get home, and the human says, "Oh, I've done my job." No, you haven't done the job. You failed your dog miserably, actually. So I'm a great believer in separating these things. You either are walking your dog, or you're doing your activity, be it running or whatever it is. And I don't personally think combining the two in that sort of manner is good. If you're running with your dog and you have to run with your dog because of time constraints or whatever, you have to be prepared to stop regularly, allow the dog to enjoy its walk stroke run. And I would also suggest you have to find part of that running where you can get your dog off a lead in an open space where it can enjoy itself while you maybe have your breathers. But you've got to let the dog have exercise and interaction in the way a dog should do. They're not humans. They need specific things. Right. So that's one aspect of it. The next is socialization. Now, socialization I've talked about many times before. It's actually quite critical. To socialize a dog properly, you have to do it from when it's a puppy throughout its whole life. Now, if you then spend a lot of time where you're doing something entirely different, your dog can quite easily go backwards and it can lose its social skills. In the doggy world, it's called extinction. It's simply forgetting. It's like when you train a dog, if you don't routinely remind the dog of its training, its recall might tail off, or it doesn't respond like it used to, because it's basically forgotten. It hasn't practiced it. And socialization is no different. We have to keep a dog socialized throughout its whole life. Now, I know the situation we find ourselves in at the moment is very, very difficult. I get that, but we have to go the extra mile to try and do the right thing for our dogs. So socialization is very important, and for a dog to really socialize, it has to be off the lead. So you have to get out there, you have to take the dog to an area where it can meet other people, it can meet other dogs, and it can be allowed to interact in the right way. So off the lead, running around with other dogs, meeting other people, not getting in everybody else's face, but giving it the opportunity to be a dog, and more importantly, be a sociable dog. If you don't do that, you again are running the risk of having real problems with your dog a little bit further down the line. So I've seen that already. I've seen it throughout the whole of last year. I am seeing dogs that are, I hate the term reactive, it's overused, but they're definitely losing some of their social skills. So they're not interacting with dogs like they would normally. They may be showing aggression, they may be showing fear, they may be showing aggression because they're scared, because they're losing the ability to interact with dogs because we're preventing them from doing it. So you've got to be very aware of that. So get them out there, get them socialised, and keep doing it until the evidence and our governing bodies tell us to do something else. If we're told you can't socialise a dog with other dogs because there's a real risk of this, that, or whatever, well then you have to take notice of that and do what's required. Okay, so that's pretty much them out and about. Now let's think about a little bit about when they're at home. And again, I've already come across quite a few people that are finding problems occurring at home because of the change in circumstances and how they've been handling things. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not attacking people here. I'm just trying to help people understand a little bit that what they do with a dog can have a major impact upon that dog and its quality of life and its behaviour. So, let me just give you an example. So you go out to work routinely, maybe half a day or even maybe a day, and your dog is used to being left alone for periods of time. Again, nothing wrong with that as long as it's not too long, obviously. But that's its routine, and it's used to it, and it's happy with that. Now we're changing something entirely. We're flipping the coin, really. So as I said, dogs like their routine. They like to know what's what and how their day's going to be. Now suddenly you're either on furlough or you are at home working from home now. Common right across the board. So now this dog has its human or humans at home all the time, 24/7. So now this dog isn't left alone. He doesn't have any downtime. Very important for dogs as well, downtime. Now downtime is simply being away from us humans. Very important. I like to sit quietly by myself sometimes and noodle on my guitars behind me, or just be apart from people and dogs and whatever. And dogs are the same. They need quiet time. If they are now in an environment where pretty much their waking hours, they have humans around them and the noise and being playing with excessively, if you like, they can get very stressed out. So we've got to be aware that it's not good for our dogs to be with us all the time. It's not good for them at all. It's not good for us in the long run either, because you again end up with problem dogs. So being apart's a good thing, and to do that, make sure you actually get your dog used to being in a room apart from you for periods of time. Now you don't suddenly start locking it away for hours on end, but what you do is you have an area in a room where it's your dog's. So maybe it's another bit of bedding in there, or somewhere where it can be quiet and apart. And when I mean apart, I don't mean stuck behind a baby gate so it can see you. That's not being apart for you. It can see you. It's in a separate part of the house, in a room, quietly by itself. Now, if you're going to do that and the dog's not used to that when you're in the house, just do it gradually. So you put your dog in a room for maybe 5 minutes, no more than that. And as long as it's quiet and stays fairly relaxed, you let the dog back in again. And then you just do that periodically through the day and just increase the time a little bit. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And you'll find that your dog will start to relax and to chill out a little bit. And it will probably get used to that, and it'll probably take itself off to its little quiet spot when it wants to go to its quiet area. And that's great. We want to encourage our dogs to do that. So that's giving our dogs quiet time, giving our dogs time to relax and be apart from us humans. Now, the other thing, dogs do need, all dogs are different, but most dogs need proper interaction with humans. So they like to play with us, they like to have a cuddle, they like to sit on the sofa, they like to have a kip next to you, all those sorts of things, and they're all good. Play is quite an important one, because we are living in very difficult times. It's difficult for us as humans, but it's very, very hard for our dogs as well, and other pets. We have to try to enrich their lives a little bit. So I hear lots of people, they say, well, I've got a nice toy, I give him this toy and he just does his own thing. Well, actually, a dog likes play. So by all means, get them the new toy if you want to. But when you get said toy, play with the dog with the toy. If it's that type of dog, play with them. Have a little interaction with them in the day. Rough and tumble them a little bit. Just have a little bit of fun with them. They'll appreciate that and they'll thank you for that in their own way. So as opposed to just throwing the dog its toy and then saying, that's that done, that's that sorted. And try to do that throughout the day, regularly. You don't have to spend hours at this. I'll give you another. Ziggy, she's not with me at the moment. She's next door with my wife, who's working in another room. Now Ziggy likes her downtime. She likes to have a little kip. She likes to be left alone. She's a rescue dog, so we're not sure what's happened to her in the past, but it's not all been good. So she likes a quiet time. But there are certain times in the day where she's up for it. She wants to get get involved and she wants to play, and she tells you in no uncertain terms, usually me, and it's usually me getting my ankles bitten or one of my ears gnawed or whatever. So what do? I might be watching the news or watching a program or whatever. I turn the TV off or pause what I'm watching if I can, and I give Ziggy some time. Give her a little bit of time, and it can be 5-10 minutes maximum, and after that she's a happy little bunny and she'll lie down and relax until the next time. But after a certain time at night, she's had enough of that. As long as she's had a little bit of a game, she's had some interaction with us, she's happy. That's the sort of thing you should be striving to do with all of your dogs. Now I'm just checking to make sure. I'll give you another example. I'm on a few dog groups on Facebook local to my area. I live in Norfolk. But I'm able to help people around the country if need be via video link. So I saw somebody talking about dogs and they were saying, oh, it's great. I'm able to keep my dog away from other dogs now. And it was in a thread of a conversation. I'm able to keep my dog away from the dog. He's a bit nervy and, he's a bit frightened of other dogs. That's great. He doesn't have to deal with other dogs. Now that, I'm afraid, is not helping your dog. If you've got a dog that is frightened of its own shadow, and I see a lot of those as well, it's our responsibility to do something to help the dog, because that isn't normal behaviour. And it's okay just sticking your vest on it and saying I'm a nervous dog and then keeping it away from all other dogs. You have to try and help it. And this is almost an excuse not to do that. Oh, that's great. I cannot do that. I saw another person who had a couple of schnauzers, and she sort of quite lightheartedly comment, oh God, yeah, I know my dog's at home now, and they both excessively lick now, and they both got bald patches, and that was a bit of a jolly sort of thing. Actually, that's not. That's a potentially serious problem. That's what's known in the trade as a stereotypy. Now, a stereotypy is a repetitive behaviour. I'll give you an example of that. Dalmatians are often known to do this. They lick their flanks excessively, and they end up breaking their skin down, and they end up with sores. Excessive behaviour. Now, dogs can develop those sorts of things, so all sorts of things. But more often than not, it's stress, it's a change in routine, it's potentially boredom, anything of that nature. You can end up with them doing a stereotypic type behaviour, and it's not something to be amused at. That's something to think, my goodness, I need some help with that. So either talk to your vet or talk to someone like me, a behaviourist. There's a few of us around, and we can help you with those sorts of things. Okay, so let me just make sure I've covered stuff. Yeah, repetitive behaviour, avoiding other dogs and owner, try not to do that. Not allowing interactions. We have to allow interactions between humans and with dogs. We have to do that. Otherwise, we are really storing up problems. We want to get our dogs off. Don't run with them attached to you, because it doesn't help them at all. And I think that's it, really. I think that's it. So in the chat, I've actually put the link to the article I wrote on this on my blog. And I've also put the link to the actual research as well. It's worth a look, and the research, if you're interested in this stuff, it makes for very interesting reading. I didn't want to bore you with all the facts and figures and the charts and all the rest of it, but basically our dogs are struggling, and we need to understand that, take the time to do something about it. So as you can see on the screen here, my website is thecaninebehaviourist.co.uk. You can find links from there to my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those sorts of things. Now, everybody seems to be doing this now, but I started to do this quite quickly, actually, because my ex naval training, I'm an ex naval medic. We react quite quickly to stuff. So I've been doing video consultations for quite some time now. It's not, for me as a behaviourist, I like to see the dog, in the flesh if I can, but that's not always possible now. But the second best thing, and I've done this a few times now, and people have been helped by this, is we can do a video consultation. So I ask you to fill in quite an extensive form that gives me lots of background information. You can send me videos of any particular behaviour that you're concerned about. You then go onto my website and you go to the video consultation page, and you can book a session with me. I spend a couple of hours talking to you, and then I give you the tools and the homework, if you like, to help yourself, and of course to help your furry charges. So I think that's it. I will try to get on here fairly regularly now, and I'll publish it when I'm about to do this. I'll share this to Facebook, and I'll share this to YouTube, and I'll share it to Twitter. So anybody that's not been able to tune in, they can take a look at there, and I hope it's been some use to you. I welcome your questions, and if I can answer them on this little Twitch feed, I will do. So you're welcome to visit my website. There's a Q&A section on there. You can ask a question there, or you can use my contact form to just ask me a question, or you can go on Facebook and use Facebook Messenger. Any of those ways you can get a question to me, and I'll try and help them. Obviously, I can't do a full-blown consultation here on Twitch, but I can certainly give you short suggestions that might help you with a particular issue that might not necessarily need a full-blown consultation with me. So I think that's it for now. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you down the line. Okay, bye bye for now.